Welcome to the Nerf Report. Welcome back to the Nerf Report. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. No, I'm filming my show for the YouTube. Stop being salty.
The ghost of Macho Man Randy Savage is here.
And in the history of the Nerf Report, with all of the videos we've ever made, this one is definitely going to be our jump the shark moment. Hey, welcome back to the Nerf Report. My name is Bryant, and we have a fantastic show of video game news lined up for you today. Amazon Luna is heading into a killer summer of video games, launching multiple Resident Evil games in the month of June. We've got a major update to Stadia's load change porting. Xbox has had enough of Kotaku's bullshit. And finally, we have a fantastic guest joining us this week. The leader of ROKK Nation himself, ROKK, will be here to discuss the future of cloud gaming and where the technology will be heading next. All of this and much, much more on this week's episode of the Nerf Report.
Are you listening?
That is right, we are back. It is another week. You know, last week we were saying that this show was going to be called The Things You May Have Missed, and I was like, you know what? We've done like 200 and something episodes of the Nerf Report, so we're just going to call this The Nerf Report because, hey, we're nerfing the news and it's a weekly show, so this will be episode 202 of the Nerf Report. So sit back and enjoy. Now, of course, this is our second video for Friday. If you haven't seen it yet, we posted a video earlier this morning discussing Google Stadia bringing 3 new games to the platform. So if you haven't seen that, I'm going to link it in the description down below. Definitely check that one out because that's a huge story. But we're not going to be talking about it here on this show because there's so many other stories to dive into. In fact, in honor of the new Obi-Wan Kenobi show, the first story has a little bit of a Star Wars title. This was probably my favorite story of this week. If you don't know, a lot of people are complaining about Xbox Game Pass in the fact that, you know, there's no AAA games launching on Xbox Game Pass this year. Needless to say, Xbox Game Pass has a great freaking library. I mean, this week we talked about how For Honor and Assassin's Creed Origin are available on there. And that is legit just brushing the surface. I mean, there are over 200 solid indie and AA and AAA video games to check out on there. And you know, there is a part of this that I kind of understand. You know, a lot of people subscribe to Xbox Game Pass because they wanted to play Starfield, and now that Starfield's not arriving, I get it, that's a bummer. But to say that there's nothing to play on Game Pass is just ridiculous. So anyway, Kotaku posted an article this week, and the tweet said, after years of hype, the Xbox Game Pass burnout is here. But this is just typical Kotaku. I mean, they stick a knife in the back of a developer whenever there's an issue like this. But the moment that somebody starts talking about crunch, they take the knife out and they're like, we always had your back, buddy. Like, Kotaku is just virtue signaling bullshit. And I think a lot of gamers are getting tired of it. And it looks like Xbox is getting tired of it as well, because Xbox replied back, tell me you limit yourself to AAA games without telling me you limit yourself to AAA games.
We got him.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great argument. You look at the solid library of Xbox Game Pass, and there are tons of games to check out on there. And the people who are complaining probably haven't even played all of them. Again, this is such a stupid issue to be complaining about. And as someone who games on Google Stadia and is constantly complaining about the fact that there's only like 30 games that have launched on Google Stadia this year, I look at the Xbox players who are complaining about Game Pass, and I'm just like, shut the hell up. All right, moving on from one game subscription service to the next. Amazon Luna, which of course is Amazon's cloud gaming platform, dropped a bombshell yesterday with announcing 5 new games that will be coming to the cloud gaming service, and there are some absolute bangers in here. Right off the bat, Resident Evil 2 the remake will be coming to Luna Plus in the month of June. Resident Evil 3 the remake will be coming to Luna Plus in the month of June. Samurai Warriors 5 will be coming to Luna Plus in June. Mega Man Legacy, which includes 6 Mega Man games, will be coming to Luna Retro, and Riptide GP Renegade will be coming to Amazon's Family Channel. I mean, solid games right there. Resident Evil 2 the remake, if you haven't played it, extremely solid game. That game originally, Resident Evil 2, was one of the best of the franchise, and then when they remade it, like, I didn't think they could kind of surpass the original game, but they did it. Resident Evil 3 the remake is really interesting because that's a game I always wanted to play, never bought it just because I never had the time to play it, but now that it's coming to Amazon Luna and I can play it for $9.99 a month, I mean, I'm all in right there. And then we had another story pop up this week. Resistance Retribution, which was a PlayStation Portable game, and Dino Crisis have both been rated for the brand new PlayStation Plus service, which, look, I am a huge fan of Resistance. I'm not going to say it's better than Halo. I know there are some PlayStation gamers out there who think it's better than Halo. It's not, but let me tell you, as a PlayStation fan growing up my entire life, Resistance was pretty close to Halo in my book when I played it. I really never played this game on the PlayStation Portable because I felt like there were really good games on PlayStation Portable, but first-person shooters just never really felt right on that system. So I am really looking forward to checking that out on my PlayStation 5. However, the biggest news out of this entire story is motherfucking Dino Crisis coming back. I am super hyped about that game. My brother and I play that game on the PlayStation 1 all the time. Scared the living hell out of me. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Dino Crisis is pretty much like an original Resident Evil style video game where you got very limited ammo, there's puzzles all around, but instead of zombies, it's dinosaurs, which is just terrifying. So yeah, I mean, there has been a ton of PlayStation Plus news kind of going around these days, but these two games coming to the service get me extremely hyped for kind of what I can expect moving forward. And that was just the beginning of the PlayStation news that we had this week. I mean, we talked about it in kind of some of the shorts about how PlayStation is going to be kind of pumping out a bunch of TV series with God of War and Horizon, but PlayStation also announced that the PSVR 2, when it launches, will have 20 first-party and third-party titles available to play, which is huge. Like, you want that from a brand new VR. I do wonder, though, I got to assume with them saying that they'll be available at launch, those games probably won't be available for the previous PSVR, so I would love to know the kind of the backwards compatibility there. But I did do some research in kind of trying to figure out what games would be available. Right now, I was only able to find 4 confirmed PSVR 2 games that are in the works. Horizon Call of the Mountain, which of course is the virtual reality version of Horizon. Samurai Slaughterhouse is being made. There's another game called Firmament, and then we also have the VR version of Among Us, which is supposedly coming to the PlayStation VR 2. Either way, the more virtual reality games available at launch, the better. I'll never forget when the PlayStation 4 originally launched, there was such a drought on games like the first couple months that it was like, whatever game was available was just like, we were gonna play it, which is partially why I think Resogun is so popular. Like, it was really the only cool game available at the time. All right, moving on to our final 2 stories. Netflix Gaming has announced that it will be adding 4 new titles to the platform, including Dragon Up, Moonlighter, Townsman: A Kingdom Rebuilt, and Exploding Kittens the Game. Now, we already talked about Exploding Kittens the Game and how that was a huge deal for that coming to Netflix, but the other 3 games are really interesting. I haven't had a chance to play them yet, but I did kind of dive into kind of the descriptions and checking out some of the photos and videos, and it feels like Netflix is starting to increase the quality of their games. I mean, a game like Moonlighter being available for free for Netflix subscribers is pretty huge. And remember, this is just mobile subscribers. As the quality of these games continue to progress, I have to assume that it's going to be available for Netflix streaming services. Either way, 4 games coming to Netflix. If you are a Netflix subscriber, highly recommend you checking out these games. I mean, there are some solid mobile games available in there, and we try our best to cover them, but occasionally we don't have time this week, and unfortunately this was the story. But hey, please, if you have tried out any of these, I would love to hear your thoughts on kind of how they're going. And moving on to our final story, we have an update from Google Stadia on porting. So porting has been kind of a major issue for Stadia. We've talked about it multiple times here on the show. For 2022, I think we're at under 30 games, 30 new games arriving for Google Stadia this year. And I think Stadia is aware of this problem because in a recent interview, Dov Zimring, who I believe is a president or vice president at Google, he basically said that Stadia's new low change porting technology has reduced the overall porting time for developers from multiple months to a matter of weeks, which if that is true, that's huge. Stadia has already revealed, I think there's like 10 or 12 different developers that are working with low change porting, and those games are coming to the platform, but the fact that he said a matter of weeks, I'm really intrigued by that. And I reached out to Stadia for a comment being like, hey, who is developing their game in a matter of weeks? Because I want to bring them on the show, I want to talk to them, and unfortunately, we never heard back from Stadia on that. So I do believe that this technology can reduce the process. If it has happened in a matter of weeks, man, I'd love to hear it. I'd love to talk to that developer. So definitely a story that we're going to be paying attention to in the upcoming weeks, because that could change the future of Stadia completely. And if we do get an update from Stadia, I will make sure to do a video about it, because I think that all of us are very interested in that topic. And you know, all this conversation around Google Stadia is kind of a perfect segue to our guest for this week, who is one of the OG content creators for the Google Stadia platform. So without further ado, I would like to welcome to the show the leader of ROKK Nation, ROKK himself. ROKK, thank you so much for joining us this week.
I'm glad you spelled it out, because the amount of people that just get it completely wrong. I mean, it's only 4 letters. What the heck can go wrong with that?
I wanted to bring you on because I feel like you're someone who has been in the Stadia community since day one, and if it's not day one, it's pretty damn close. Tell everybody who's watching, if they haven't heard of you, what type of content are you producing? What are you doing over on YouTube?
So, I mean, I'm a bit of an anomaly, to be fair, because most people that create content for Stadia, it tends to be game streaming stuff or amazing news, production, quality, level, brilliant Hollywood stuff like you do. Whereas I'm just an experimenter. I'm just a bored old man that couldn't afford afford a Harley Davidson and thought, I know what I'll do to get hip with the chicks. I'll just create a channel. But you're right. I was a founder back in 2019, and it just coincided really with me getting pneumonia, and I just, and I've always been a frustrated voiceover artist, to be fair with you, Brian. So Stadia came out, I fell in love with immediately. I'd been a massive ambassador for cloud gaming on the quiet because nobody would listen to me anyway, and I started doing audio podcasts, thinking this is a subject that I could talk somewhat on, and it kind of snowballed. And then I got involved with other people's shows, and so I've done a mix and match. I do guest-based shows, talk shows, podcasts. I do some news stuff. I do the occasional stream, but underlining it all really is a passion for cloud gaming and fun. I can't do anything that's straight. I'm a dad joker at heart.
I'm curious, as someone who's kind of been an ambassador for cloud gaming, what's your overall impression on kind of what's going on with the industry?
Well, I mean, it's since 2019, it has exploded. I mean, all the kind of the current crop of, maybe with the exception of Amazon, were around at that point. But, the tide's risen and it's taken all the ships as well. And what we've seen, I think, is a much more general acceptance that actually there is that option. It's that sort of third option beyond PCs and consoles. Actually, it's a viable option. And the early days prior to Stadia, it had a pretty bad rap. And we had PS Now, we had OnLive, but they weren't great. They were laggy, and the frame rates weren't brilliant, and the quality was kind of sub 720. So people's takeaway of the quality of cloud was and then Stadia stepped up to the plate and said, you know what, we can do 4K, we can do HDR, we can do 5.1. Did they deliver on that? To a greater or lesser degree, for sure. And then GFN, NVIDIA GeForce Now, came along and said, and we can provide another business model as well. And we're going to take it up another gear technically. So all the PC gamers, the kind of diehard sweaties, as we used to call them in the 1950s, they were like, this is kind of the quality now that I can play with. And in another world, in ILR, I think IRL, that's the one that you kids use. I'm an ambassador for a college that has an esports course and a university that's just starting an esports course. And it's interesting to see how the people on that course are going, cloud's kind of getting there, and I've got Stadia or I've got GeForce Now. So it's the right time in the right place, by my estimation.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, just that generational change as well, because it's something we've talked about on this channel a lot, is that first generation of gamers were very much PC, mouse and keyboard, and then you kind of went into the arcades, and then it was the home consoles and controllers. And when you look in there, you have a generation of gamers who are like, we have to have mouse and keyboards. Then you have that next generation that's like, hey man, I'm a controller gamer. And I think I categorize myself in that generation. And then you have that next generation of gamers that are coming up right now, that touchscreen mobile play. It's everything they know. And I think that that's going to be interesting, not just from a cloud perspective, but also from an esports perspective, is that barrier of entry is just going to get lower and lower and lower as we kind of continue.
And we see it in India. And as you know, and I know you've said this yourself in the past, you've got an entire country that's predominantly mobile gaming and amazingly esports on mobile devices as well. Some amazing quality gamers out there. So I think there are so many different ways to play and different platforms to play on now that it's kind of foolhardy to say I'm a PC gamer or I'm an Xbox or a PlayStation gamer. You're a gamer, and it's like when certainly when I was growing up, and I'm sure the same for you as well, Brian. TV consisted of a few channels and whatever was being broadcast, and you just turned up and watched it. And you may have been more into sports or more into soaps or what have you, and you chose your favorite channel. But now streaming we can choose whatever we want and watch what we want and where we want on our mobile device. Gaming's no great difference. You literally, what's important to us is gaming, and where we play it and how we play it and what we play. That's an individual choice, and it's really not one against the other.
Now, I'm curious, with kind of you having a watchful eye over everything, who's doing stuff that you like, who's doing stuff that you don't like?
To be honest with you, I like what everyone's doing, and they've all got a slightly different angle, which is fascinating. I haven't been able to play on Amazon Luna because at the time of writing, it hasn't been released in outside of the US, but times are a coming and a changing.
So one good thing that us Americans have going for us. So
you got your Luna. Look, it's coming soon, I'm sure of it. And there's waves out there. I'm feeling the vibes. But I love what they're doing, and I like the idea of having that kind of McDonald's Happy Meal version with Prime, and then you get a little play and you can go off and maybe pay a bit more. Xbox, they pushed hard on Xbox Cloud Gaming, originally called xCloud, of course, and that's getting better and better and better, and now nearly every game that they're releasing under the Game Pass banner has a cloud version. Of course, in the days to come, PlayStation are rebranding and reimagining the PlayStation Plus and the PS Now. Now, I always thought, actually, for the last couple of years, PS Now has been really good, but it's been seen as the kind of, forgotten child. Nobody's that. We remember when it wasn't good. It's good now, and I think that my feeling is that they're about to ramp that quality up again another notch. Stadia is interesting because they don't say anything. We haven't got a clue what Stadia are thinking until they do it. And I always say, look, you know what? I know the bulk of what I do is Stadia content, but that's because I love the Stadia community. I don't have any allegiance or affiliation with Stadia themselves. And we all have our own gripes and things that we wish they would do differently and better. NVIDIA are a great bunch of guys. I'm an ambassador with them, with GeForce Now. Their 3080 tier is mind-blowingly good on a technical level. Doesn't have, for my money, the kind of fluidity of Stadia. Stadia really, for me, is perfect casual gamer material. You just press a button, you're on, you choose your game, you play it. Whereas it's a little bit more clunky, a bit more PC-like with NVIDIA. But I love what those guys are pushing boundaries as well. And there are others on the fringes. Nobody really knows who's going to end up as the superior player. But the key thing is there's choice in there. There's some you can buy games and play them, some you pay for them elsewhere and play them, just whatever really takes your fancy.
Yeah, it's interesting. Occasionally people will be in the comment section being like, oh, I want to see a video of comparing GeForce Now with Stadia or Xbox Cloud with Stadia. And it's tough because, as you mentioned, it's different flavors, right? If you go into an ice cream shop and you try strawberry versus vanilla, you're talking about two kind of different things. And I think cloud gaming is very much in that same spectrum of that. Stadia is kind of offering that free console, and GeForce Now is offering its free console, but you have to buy games on other platforms. And it's like everybody is doing something differently. And I'm really wishing I had a time machine that I could literally jump 5 years into the future just to see where it all lands, because it's going to be fascinating. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts. 5 years from now, where do you think this is all going to be?
Well, I think Stadia really have been feeling their way from day one. They're a tech company. They bought the codec and didn't really know initially. They bought it for YouTube and thought, actually, this codec's pretty amazing. And out of that came game streaming and their other cloud-based services, and they've sort of been feeling their way. NVIDIA have gone, hey, let's just try and find a way to get on the ramp of PC gamers and do deals whereby we provide a streaming service, which they subscribe to as a la PC in the cloud, and then you buy a gift. So everyone's trying different things. A lot of people kind of, you get the whole, there's a constant typhoon around Stadia of, one day it's dead, one day it's alive, one day it's on its last legs, the next day it's second coming. But My personal feeling is Google are heavily invested in cloud services. And if you look at their financial revenue, it's the most buoyant aspect now of what they do. So, they ain't dropping that ball anytime soon. And they may not give the same love to Google Stadia that they maybe envisaged giving it at the early days. But there's still a lot of development taking place. So I think it's there for the long haul personally. And as I've said, I think their market really is the casual gamer. It's not somebody who probably even watches a bulk of the content that I put out. It's my brother. He's a great example. So, he works during the day, gets home, he fancies 10 minutes before dinner. He fires it up. It's quick enough that he can do that. And then he puts the controller down and he goes and has his beans on toast. That's it. He's a casual gamer. He doesn't care what's latest game, the latest AAA from Epic, or whether he can get to 400 level on Fortnite. That's not his thing. But there's a lot of people, a lot of vocal people that think that's what it should be. And I think that Google at this moment have to be fairly quiet because they don't want to upset those people. But equally, that's not really the market that they're aiming for.
I agree, and this is just how my brain is working right now. Beans on toast.
So it's toast with beans.
Any special type of beans? Or just
yeah, it's beans in tomato sauce. One of the Heinz 56 varieties. It'll be usually a thick slice white loaf with copious amounts of butter. So you heat your beans and you put them on the toast, grated cheese on top.
All right. So, ROKK, the other question I have for you is the reason you and I kind of got into contact was you have a big charity event coming up in the next month, and I'm really interested in this. So, can you explain to me what you're going to be doing?
Yeah, sure. So, I did this last year for a month. Now, I know when a lot of streamers do charity stuff, they do 24-hour binges. I'm too old for that, my friend.
It's terrible. I've done 24 hours.
If I was to do 24 hours, they'd be scraping me off the floor and hanging me out to dry. So what I'm going to do instead, which is what I did last year, is just a big month of promotion for the charity. The charity changed their name, actually, during COVID. They used to be called Click Sargent, which stood for Cancer and Leukemia in Children. And there were two charities. They were both formed in the late 60s, early 70s. One was named after the founding gentleman, Sargent, and the other one was formed around the death of the founding fellow's son, who was 11 when he died. It's something that's close to my heart. I lost my best friend 25 years ago, and somebody very, very close in the family is still recovering from cancer. The thing I love about these guys, they renamed themselves to Young Lives versus Cancer. So they had a kind of re-look at the whole brand and thought, what we're missing here? We're kind of this big corporate charity, but we're missing the fact that we deal with young people, and they renamed themselves. A lot of what they do in terms of raising funding is around the sorts of activities that you will find young people involved in, hence game streaming. They do things like they provide support for young people and families. They help with financial costs. They help with accommodation. They put nurses in there, do emotional support, making sure that there's communication in place for children and their friends, because oftentimes there'll be a great distance travel for treatment, bereavement support, and then obviously campaigning for policy changes at government level. So they're not one of those charities that think they're going to cure cancer, which always bites me a bit because there are big enough pharmaceutical companies that are taking a slice of that. These guys are doing the kind of day-to-day support stuff, and it's for young people, which is very close to my heart.
I look forward to kind of jumping into some of your charity streams you're going to be doing in the upcoming month, and I do want to tell you that we don't make a ton of money here on the show, but I would like to give you at least $50 going directly to your charity.
Kind.
So once that charity link opens up and the first stream comes in, I'll jump in, I'll drop it. But you, sir, are a very kind individual. I've appreciated your support throughout the years, and I wish you all the success with this upcoming charity stream.
Same, my friend. All the best.
If people want to find more information about you, where should they go?
Well, I'm omnipresent on Twitter. In fact, if you send me a DM or a tweet, you will get a 5-second response.
I noticed that. I was going to applaud you on that. Yeah.
I know. Elon Musk has put a chip in my head. I can't escape. It's terrible. So you can find me there at ROKK Show, ROKK Show. Also on YouTube at ROKKS, ROKKS. That's the channel. I'm on Twitch as ROKK Show, and any of the platforms, literally as ROKK, ROKK. And please look me up. I really enjoy having you there.
Well, Rock, thank you again for joining us this week. And unfortunately, that is going to be it for this week's episode. We had a ton of news to talk about today. We also had a ton of news drop this week. So if you hadn't had a chance to check out any of our previous videos, make sure to watch them. Check out our shorts. Head over to TikTok. Follow us on Twitter. And of course, as always, my name is Bryant. This has been the Nerf... What is that? What do you... Oh my, you made it. All right. We got beans and toast in honor of ROKK joining us. So beans with tomato sauce and toasted bread. Let's test it out. I get it. I get why this is a thing. Hey, thanks again for checking out our channel. If you like what you saw and you want to see more content just like it, which who wouldn't, hit the subscribe button right there. And while you're down there, hit the like button. Maybe even consider becoming a Nerf Report best friend, just like the people listed down below did. In fact, don't you want to see your name there? I know I do.